What is life? What does it mean for something to be alive? This question has fascinated humanity for centuries, yet it remains one of the deepest mysteries. On the surface, the answer seems straightforward. Life is what grows, breathes, reproduces, and responds to its environment. But interestingly, there is no universally accepted scientific definition of life. Despite our best efforts, we struggle to reach a consensus on where life begins and ends. Why is this? And why does our boundary between living and non-living always seem to be expanding outward? Several hundred years ago, we used to think that we were the only intelligent, conscious, living things. René Descartes famously argued that animals lacked souls or true intelligence. He viewed them as automata, machine-like entities. This view was a consequence of our human biases and very limited understanding of the world. As we learned more about the complexity of nature, we expanded our understanding of life and intelligence from ourselves to animals. Naturally, we equated being alive and intelligent to things that are similar to us. We've long assumed that only things that behave like us and think like us and have brains like us are intelligent and alive. But the more we learn about the deep inner workings of nature, the more we realize that the things that are not similar to us, like insects, plants, cells, and bacteria, are in fact alive. We're constantly pushing the boundaries on what we consider alive and intelligent. We're now at the point where we're asking if viruses, endospores, and maze-solving slime molds are somehow intelligent and alive. We see that swarms, these self-organizing collective systems, have a type of intelligence that we do not fully understand. We question whether systems such as networks of trees and ecosystems have a type of intelligence we have yet to fully recognize. They don't have a brain like us, but there is certainly some type of life, some type of intelligence there. We're beginning to see that our definitions of life and intelligence are still quite limited and heavily biased. What if life is far more expansive, far more inclusive than we currently believe? Let's step back and ask ourselves, why has it been so hard to pin down where life starts and where it ends? Why has it been so hard to define? It's because we've made some fundamental errors in our understanding of the world around us. One mistake was to assume that there is a real line between living and non-living things. Consider a carbon atom in a rock and another in your body. They're identical in every way, yet one is deemed alive and the other dead. This distinction is not based on any inherent difference, but on a conceptual boundary that we've drawn for convenience. Nature shows us that everything is interconnected and nothing stands alone. From the way soil nurtures plants to the endless recycling of elements between rocks and living organisms, we see that nature doesn't operate in fixed categories. The deeper we look, the more we realize that the boundaries we draw between organisms, ecosystems, and even between living and non-living are just that, boundaries drawn by the mind. There's no real separation between dead and alive, only a line drawn in the sand based on our humanistic concepts and ideas of what it means to be alive, which are based on certain behaviors and characteristics. These boundaries don't truly exist in nature. Everything in nature, everything in the universe, is part of a seamless whole. Ultimately, the difference between dead and alive is categorical and definitional, not fundamental. A better way to frame things is to look at it as Erwin Schrödinger did. Schrödinger declared to think of living organisms in terms of their molecular and atomic structure. There was no great divide between living and non-living. They all obey the same laws of physics and chemistry. The line itself really isn't the main issue. It's fine to have a distinction between things that behave differently and definitions based on those behaviors. The real problem is the deep meaning that we've given to that line, that dead matter gives rise to life. This belief stems from a deeper, more problematic assumption, that matter is the building block of the universe. From the current belief system, the mainstream physicalist worldview, life is treated as a rare and extraordinary state that somehow emerges from lifeless matter. And consciousness, a state that occurs when advanced life forms become aware of their own existence, is also treated as a rare and extraordinary state that somehow emerges from lifeless matter. But there is no proof that this is the case. So what if we're wrong about this? We haven't always seen the world as we do today, as a mechanistic material world made up of separate objects, most of which are typically dead dumb matter. The mystics, sages, and Greek philosophers saw the world as a living, harmonious whole, a seamless dance of spirit and soul. They saw that the world and sky were in a state of constant transformation. Plato believed that the universe is a single living creature that contains all living creatures within it. The ancients understood that all is deeply connected and interwoven, and all is part of a harmonious whole, including ourselves. Then came the scientific revolution, which again led us to the fundamental mistake that we have made, the belief that the world is made up of separate, individual pieces of matter. Our belief in a purely physical world arose from a series of misconceptions, each reinforcing the illusion of a universe made of separate inert parts. First, as Alfred Korzybski stated, we mistook the map for the territory. In our quest to understand reality, thinkers like Galileo, Newton, and Descartes reduced the rich, qualitative nature of experience, the experience that you and I are having right now, to quantitative measurements and abstract models. These models, while they're useful for predicting and manipulating the world, led us to believe that the map, or these mathematical descriptions, was the ultimate reality, while ignoring the lived, subjective nature of experience itself. This error was compounded by Descartes' mind-matter dualism, which framed matter as lifeless and measurable, while relegating the mind to a separate, immaterial realm. Descartes' mind-matter split laid the groundwork for the modern scientific method, where matter became the sole focus of study, and consciousness was treated as an afterthought, something mysterious and secondary. In this framework, the universe was viewed as a collection of separate objects interacting mechanically with no intrinsic connection to consciousness. Newton's mechanical clockwork universe reinforced this worldview. He described the cosmos as a giant deterministic machine, operating according to fixed laws of motion and gravity. This model was profoundly influential, offering unparalleled predictive power and fostering the belief that the universe could be fully understood by breaking it down into its constituent parts. While Newton's insights revolutionized science, they also cemented the idea that reality was fundamentally material and that consciousness was either irrelevant or an emergent property of complex matter. Over time, this mechanistic worldview led to the assumption that the universe is composed of separate, independent pieces of matter interacting to produce life. Yet, this raises a profound paradox. How can lifeless, inert matter give rise to life? Especially when you consider that there's no inherent difference between the atoms in a rock and a human. And to take it a step further, how can lifeless, inert matter give rise to the rich, subjective experiences that define our very lives? This is the unsolved hard problem of consciousness, a problem that the physicalist worldview cannot address. We simply don't know how physical stuff creates our subjective, conscious experience. Well, it's because it doesn't, but we'll get to that in a minute. We talk about matter as an objective, quantitative thing that exists independently of our senses. But the idea of independent matter is an unproven theory. No one has ever directly experienced this matter as an independent reality. All perception, every sight, sound, taste, and touch, occurs within consciousness. Even the instruments we use to measure the world ultimately produce data that is interpreted within consciousness. This quantitative matter doesn't actually exist as some independent thing that combines in complex ways to give rise to consciousness. The idea of independent matter is just an objective way to model the world around us, but the model is not the reality. The model is an abstraction of the one and only thing we do know, the only thing that we can't deny is real, our subjective conscious experience. Our entire life, our entire experience takes place inside of consciousness. So any ideas of independent matter existing outside of it are theories that can never be proven. By treating matter as the foundation, we've relegated consciousness to a secondary phenomenon, rather than recognizing it as fundamental. As Edmund Husserl, who established the school of phenomenology, stated, "The world of pure experience, the only real world, is subordinated to a scientific world, created by a method of abstraction. This is a reversal of the true order of priority." So, consciousness is not a byproduct of some physical process, which is why it can't be explained by the physicalist theory. And this is why the hard problem of consciousness exists in the first place. Reality is not the abstract model that we've created from inside of our conscious experience. Reality is right here. It is our conscious experience, and it is primary. It is the ground state of reality. It is undeniably here in every moment. What's not here is independent matter existing outside of consciousness. That's an unproven theory, a theory that has many problems and shortfalls. What we call matter is an appearance arising within consciousness, not a separate external reality. Quantum mechanics further undermines this physicalist framework. It reveals that particles, the supposed building blocks of matter, exist in a state of probability until observed. The act of observation brings these probabilities into definite form, suggesting that the observer and the observed are inseparably entangled. This challenges the notion of an objective, independent world and points to the primacy of consciousness in shaping reality. So let me summarize this reversal in our understanding of the world using one of Bob Seale's cartoons as inspiration. It's not that inert lifeless matter gives rise to life, and then advanced life gives rise to consciousness. It's not that you are a conscious person who is aware of the external world. You are in consciousness, or what others refer to as awareness. Awareness, or consciousness, is prior to the appearance of the person. This idea can be confusing upon hearing it for the first time. If this is the case, please go see my recent video, Reality is Not What You Think, where I break down the current physicalist paradigm and explain how reality is awareness and our subjective experience takes place within it. By clinging to the conventional, fragmented physicalist model, we've not only failed to explain how subjective experience arises, but have also alienated ourselves from the profound unity of existence. This worldview perpetuates the illusion of separateness between self and other, between mind and matter, and between living and non-living. It fosters a sense of isolation and disconnection from reality itself. Everything we perceive, from the stars in the sky to our thoughts, arises within and as this one single awareness. With this understanding, we can begin to see the cosmos in an entirely new light. Matter is not the foundation of existence. It is the form that awareness takes. The world is not something separate from us. It is the reflection of our shared being. And science, far from being a sterile examination of lifeless objects, becomes a profound exploration of the various forms and expressions of awareness. Recognizing this shifts our entire perspective, revealing a universe that is not cold and mechanical. It is a dynamic, living expression of awareness, constantly evolving and unfolding. If everything is awareness taking form, then there isn't some magical point where non-life suddenly becomes life. We can still make distinctions. Some forms self-replicate, some do not. But all of it is awareness interacting with itself in endless ways. There is no line, and there is no longer the problem of dead stuff giving rise to living stuff. All forms are equal expressions of awareness. From this view, where reality is consciousness taking form, the term life loses its significance as some special rare emergent phenomena. But the good news is, the whole universe is alive, conscious, aware, and intelligent. Awareness is not confined to certain corners of the universe. It's all around us, experiencing itself in various forms, from very simple to very complex. From here, we can begin to realize our true connection to the cosmos, our true nature, not as isolated individuals, but as one with the universe itself. The more we look, the more obvious it becomes that this world, this universe, is one integrated whole. Nature is a deeply interconnected continuum where everything depends on everything else to exist. Ecosystems demonstrate this vividly, with plants, animals, and microorganisms forming intricate webs of dependence. Bees pollinate flowers that sustain other creatures, and trees share nutrients through underground fungal networks like the Wood Wide Web. Energy flows through food chains, weather patterns are shaped by global systems, and cycles like the water and carbon cycles connect land, air, and animals. Even symbiotic relationships, like coral and algae, or flowers and pollinators, reveal how nothing exists in isolation. Nature's interdependence shows us that everything is part of a larger, unified whole. Nothing stands apart, not even you. As Sadhguru stated, the other half of your breathing apparatus is a tree. You are literally part of the biosphere. And to take things further, you are quite literally made from the remnants of stars. When some stars run out of fuel, they explode in a supernova. The remnants from this explosion create other stars and planets, and one of those planets created you. You are a child of Mother Earth and a grandchild of the stars. Not only is nature deeply connected, it is deeply intelligent. We can see this in the behavior of networks, self-organizing systems, and even in organisms without brains. Think of the way ecosystems self-regulate, and how trees share nutrients and signal danger through vast fungal networks. A forest may seem rather still to us, but when viewed over centuries, it is in constant motion, growing, adapting, and even migrating over landscapes. These systems display a form of intelligence that we have yet to fully understand. Not the product of deliberate thought, but an inherent self-organizing wisdom woven into nature itself. Consider the intelligence of a slime mold, which can solve mazes and optimize pathways without a brain, or the coordinated movements of swarming bees, murmuring starlings, and self-regulating ecosystems. They're all functioning with a synchrony that defies conventional definitions of intelligence. These systems do not think as we do, yet intelligence is undeniably present, one that operates beyond human reasoning, which, I might add, is why it's very difficult for us to fully recognize. Human intellect allows for reasoning, but nature exhibits its own intelligence, guiding the growth of trees, the beating of our hearts, and countless other processes. While we develop models to understand these mechanisms, much remains unknown and impossible to fully capture. We separate these forms of intelligence, identifying only with our intellect, while overlooking the deep intelligence all around us. In truth, human intelligence is not separate from nature's intelligence. It is also an expression of it. The same intelligence that orchestrates ecosystems and shapes the intricate branching of trees also gives rise to our own thoughts. Research into self-organizing systems reveals that even so-called lifeless materials, like sand dunes and snowflakes, exhibit patterns and behaviors that are very similar to living systems. How can this be? It's because this whole planet, this whole universe, is a continuum. It's all part of one intelligent living system shaped by consciousness itself. To reiterate, there is no real line between dead and alive, just a line we have drawn for convenience. It's just a way we slice up the world, but there isn't any slicing up in nature or in the world or in the universe. We just slice it up conceptually. So, the universe isn't alive or dead. Those are just labels and divisions that we've created. The universe is the universe. It's beyond erroneous divisions and limited definitions. It is an incredible process that is shaped by and within consciousness itself. It is one indivisible whole. Everything, even stars, galaxies, and great cosmic structures, are part of this intelligent consciousness. Stars are not mere burning spheres of gas. They are the universe's alchemists, forging the elements that give rise to planets, oceans, and a huge variety of creatures. Stars are a part of the unified process, just like anything else in the universe, and they too go through their own cycle. Stars are born, evolve, and return their essence to the cosmos, seeding new generations of stars, the same way a tree drops its seeds to create more trees. It's a different kind of existence than that of a tree, but it is undoubtedly going through its own unique process of birth and death. Galaxies, vast swirling systems of stars that are bound together, are also going through a process. They move, evolve, interact, create more complex forms within itself, and then dissipate. Although the galaxy may seem like a static thing over the course of a human life, the galaxy is not a static thing when viewed over millions of years. It's a dynamic, active entity full of billions of stars that interact in various ways. Gas is blown out of the galactic disk by supernova and stellar winds, and that gas falls back onto the galaxy to form new generations of stars in a kind of recycling process. A galaxy is not a collection of dumb matter. Galaxies, like stars and trees, go through their own process of birth and death. As we see on Earth, brainless organisms like jellyfish and complex systems display intelligence despite not having a brain. What makes the Earth, a very complex system in itself, or a galaxy, any different? We could loosely think of the Earth as a type of organism within another organism, the galaxy, within an even larger type of organism, the universe. The intelligence and interconnection of all things becomes even more apparent when we observe the patterns woven throughout the universe. The spirals in galaxies and seashells, the branching networks of rivers, lightning bolts, and veins and leaves are not coincidental. They are the signatures of a deeper intelligence at work. Think of the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio that appears in everything from the arrangement of sunflower seeds to the spiral arms of galaxies. Or consider fractals, self-similar patterns that repeat at every scale, from the tiniest snowflake to the vast mountain ranges. These patterns are not just mathematical abstractions. They reflect an underlying order, a profound intelligence shaping the cosmos. An intelligence that operates in the most efficient and economical way, through proportional relationships, parts to be integrated within the whole. These patterns show us, once again, that the universe is not fragmented. It is one interconnected whole, an intricate web of relationships that shapes galaxies, ecosystems, and even human thought. Again, this is not a new idea. Ancient wisdom traditions have spoken of the universe as a living, harmonious whole, a seamless dance of consciousness expressing itself in countless forms. The mystics saw no divide between mind and matter, no separation between self and the cosmos. Everything was seen as part of the same vibrant awareness. To see life this way is to open to a deeper understanding, one that goes beyond the limits of our senses and instruments. It invites us to reconnect with the ancient insight that the universe is not a collection of separate objects, but a unified, living reality. When we recognize these recurring designs, we begin to see that the same intelligence, the same awareness, flows through all forms, from the smallest particle to the largest galaxy. It is a reminder that you and I are not separate from the universe. We are also part of its rhythm, its harmony, its endless dance. As Eckhart Tolle stated, you are the universe experiencing itself, very briefly, as a human. To get a little more in depth with this, your unique point of view is one way in which awareness interacts with itself. This one field of consciousness is creating trillions of unique perspectives, not just in humans. All creatures, from a ladybug to a horse, and anything with a sense receptor, is a contraction or localization of awareness. This contraction of awareness creates an individual perspective, which in turn creates the apparent duality between self and other that we feel and experience on a daily basis. But there is no real separation. Your unique point of view is simply one way in which consciousness perceives and interacts with itself. You are quite literally the universe experiencing itself. Through these localized points of view, awareness experiences the world in a specific way. For humans, this means seeing colors, hearing sounds, and feeling textures. But what's fascinating is that the world we perceive doesn't exist independently of the perceiver. Quantum mechanics hints at this truth. A particle's state isn't defined until it's observed. In other words, the act of observation brings the world into form. This means that the unique point of view and the world arise together. The rock you see exists as a rock only in relation to your perception of it. Without a perceiver, it's not a rock as we know it. It's pure awareness, undifferentiated potential. Every species, every form of life experiences this interplay differently. A bat, using echolocation, perceives a very different reality than a human. A bee sees ultraviolet patterns on flowers that are invisible to us. Each unique point of view brings forth its own version of the world, shaped by its unique senses and perspective. Or, as Alan Watts put it, each organism experiences this from a different standpoint and in a different way. For each organism is the universe experiencing itself in endless variety. Again, forms don't exist as independent objects. A galaxy, for instance, doesn't appear as a swirl of stars until a unique point of view, a human perhaps, perceives it. To us, the galaxy looks vast and majestic, a cosmic dance of light and matter. But to another form of awareness, it might appear completely different. Each perspective, each unique point of view, brings forth its own version of reality, shaped by its sensory framework. Awareness interacts with itself through these unique points of view, creating a vast web of interdependent perspectives. The separation we feel from each other, from nature, from the universe itself, is just an illusion. For centuries, we've drawn boundaries between what's alive and what's not, between self and other. But as we've explored, these boundaries are constructs of the mind, tools we've used to make sense of a deeply interconnected reality. When we begin to dissolve these lines, a profound truth emerges. Everything is part of a unified living process. When we let go of the illusion of separation, the world begins to look different. We start to see life everywhere and in everything. The stars that burn in distant galaxies are not merely balls of hot gas. They are processes, dynamic and evolving, just like the cells in your body. The rocks that form the foundation of our world may seem still and silent, but within them, atomic dances unfold that stretch for millennia. This understanding dissolves the false line between us and them, between alive and dead. It reveals that the same awareness that animates you also animates the universe. You're not an isolated being inhabiting a lifeless world. You are a localized expression of a living, dynamic whole. Every breath you take, every beat of your heart, is part of the rhythm of the cosmos, a rhythm that echoes in the tides, the seasons, and the cycles of the stars. The galaxies above, the rivers below, the trees that surround us, and even the air we breathe, they're all expressions of the same awareness, the same infinite intelligence. When we see the universe this way, it transforms how we relate to the world. No longer are we separate beings, isolated in our individual experiences. Instead, we are participants in a vast, dynamic system of interconnection. This realization changes everything. It shifts how we care for the planet, for each other, and even for ourselves. When we see the Earth as part of us, not a resource to be exploited, but a living, breathing system that we belong to, our priorities naturally shift. Connection replaces exploitation, and cooperation replaces domination. In this unified vision, every action we take ripples through the web of existence. Every moment becomes an opportunity to align with the rhythm of the universe, to live in harmony with the flow of awareness itself. This isn't just a philosophical idea. It's a call to rediscover our place within the great cosmic dance. What happens when we embrace this truth? How might it change the way we live and the way we care for the world around us? It's time to take the next step. To see the world not as a collection of separate objects, but as a dynamic living process that you are an inseparable part of. Start by cultivating a sense of connection in your daily life. Notice the intricate web of relationships that surrounds you. Feel the connection between yourself and the natural world. The air that flows through your lungs, the sunlight that fuels the ecosystems around you, the earth that supports your every step. These aren't mere resources. They're extensions of the same awareness that you are. Foster a cooperative relationship with nature. Instead of seeing it as something to be controlled or exploited, approach it with curiosity and respect. Learn from its wisdom. Nature operates in cycles of balance, renewal, and interdependence. By aligning ourselves with these rhythms, we can begin to live more harmoniously, both with the planet and with each other. Imagine a world where we fully embrace our role as active participants in this vast living universe. How might that transform our priorities, our relationships, and our sense of purpose? This shift in perspective could lead to a more compassionate way of being, one that honors the deep interconnectedness of all life. So, take a moment. Reflect on the miracle of existence, of awareness experiencing itself through you. Realize that you are not some isolated conscious being in a world of dead, dumb matter. You are consciousness experiencing itself, right here, right now. The universe is not something you stand apart from. You're not only in the universe, you are the universe.